Good morning, good morning. It is Friday, the 19th of April 2024. I hope you can hear me. I hope you can see me. I don't know. We're away for the weekend, and the place where we're staying has no phone signal. So normally, if things don't work, technically, I just get on my phone and do the show from my phone. But I can't do that today because there's no phone signal either. So I've just had to break into a neighbour's cottage and steal their internet box. We asked permission. It's fine. But we're on a very, very, very low bandwidth here. So, Sunak is beyond contempt, says Plum Duff. Can hear and see. Oh, thank you very much, Real Phil. That's such a relief. Honestly, last week we had issues with the video, and I couldn't do the video wasn't working, so I had to do it on my phone. And then the sound wasn't working on the Friday, so I had to do it on my phone. And then today the internet's not working. Yeah, the idea of working from anywhere is a bit of a myth. You're a bit loud. Oh, sorry. I'll turn down my gain. Hang on a sec. I'll turn my gain down. There you go. My microphone. Is that better? Is that okay? Is it a little less boomy now? Boom, boom. Extra SLEAZE. So, I just wanted to talk about the Tory SLEAZE. Well, first of all, I should mention that the Israel has retaliated against Iran last night, fired a missile, or at least one missile into Iran. So hopes of the situation there not escalating have been dashed, unfortunately. Let's hope that's the end of it. Maybe that's the end of it. I don't know if that's going to be the end of it. I hope it's going to be the end of it. Much better, says David. Thank you very much, and others. But yeah, let's just talk about British politics for a moment, because for the last year, it feels like every newspaper's been banging on about Angela Rayner and what she may or may not have done. So much so that the Tidal man who apparently reported her to the police can't tell anyone what he reported her to the police for. Like, what exactly is that she's done? I know, I can't answer that question. Oh, Sarah, thank you so much. Hi, Graham. I'm so scared after Sunak's speech. Thanks very much for the super chat there. I've not heard the speech yet. Sorry, but I will catch up on that, and we'll talk about it on the agenda at 1 o'clock. I'm actually thinking of driving we're in the lakes at the moment. I'm thinking of driving somewhere like a cafe to do the show at 1 o'clock where we've got decent internet. Can anyone hear beeping in the background? It might be my partner typing. We're both trying to work. Anyway, Sunak seems to want people to break into his houses and pilch his stuff. He almost seems like he wants to be the most hated ... what man in the world. Sunak can't do anything. He can say anything, but nothing can happen in the time he's got left. He's gone. Well, yeah, absolutely. And the only thing he can look, there are some things he can do, like the smoking ban, which they voted on this week. Obviously, that's got to go into the House of Lords now and come back. But also the ban on non-dom statuses, which it looks like it's just a delaying thing. It's just going to delay it a little bit. But those two policies are going to be carried on by Labour and maybe expanded upon, especially the non-dom issue is going to be expanded upon by Labour. So, I mean, yeah, if he wants his legacy to be anything, he can do stuff that he knows that Labour's not going to reverse in the first day of office, unlike the Rwanda policy, which is going to be reversed in Starmer's first day in office, because it's just a ridiculous policy that doesn't work on any level. It doesn't work economically, it doesn't work morally. It doesn't work practically. It just doesn't work. It's a terrible, terrible idea. Tried by the idiots over in Israel. They wanted to send people to Rwanda, and it didn't work. It didn't work then. Right, so Sunak sets out welfare reforms to tackle sick note culture. So this is just on the BBC website. He sets out plans to end what he calls Britain's sick note culture if he wins the next general election. They've created a sick country. You know this thing called sick building syndrome? You've heard of that, where there's a building usually built in the 60s or 70s, out of concrete, and there's not enough air circulation in the building. There's not enough light that gets into the building. The ceilings are too low, and it causes the people who have to live or work in that building to get ill more often. It's called sick building syndrome. It's a real thing that happens. I think that the Tories have given Britain a sick country syndrome. That's what we've become. And they're going, oh, all these people off sick. Yeah, because you're stressing everyone out to hell. Like, all of my friends, people who make content, and I'm friends who really haven't got anything to do with politics, all of them are suffering right now. Like, all of them, I've got stuff going on. And it usually comes down to the fact that the things that they expected at this part in their life have been taken away by the older generation. Not everyone, not all boomers, hashtag not all boomers, but generally speaking, older people voted for Brexit. Older people voted for the Tories again and again and again. And the Tories have absolutely done a number on the younger generations. As in generations, I mean, generations are a bit fuzzy. It's not like you have a clear cut-off at a certain date where it's like, right, that's it. You're no longer a boomer, you're Generation X. Or no longer Generation X, you're a millennial. Someone born the day before is a Gen X, and the one born the day after is a millennial. It just tends to be, trends in a given sort of group, but it's a bit fuzzy around the edges. But that doesn't matter. If you just say young people, let's say just say people under the age of 50 are really suffering right now. And people who are in their 30s and 40s are not as far progressed in terms of family life and being able to buy their own house and having a job that they like, that is a job for life, having savings, having a pension. They are well behind where their parents' generation were at their same age. I mean, don't forget, in the 1960s, you could afford a semi-detached house on one income. One income, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, you tell that to kids nowadays, they think you're mad. I think I'm a secret supporter of just having a big commune. Like Reverend Jim Jones. That ended well. Just to pay the rent. Thanks very much to Johnny Copperhead there for the super chat. Really, really appreciate it. Sunak can cure our sick building syndrome immediately by calling a general election. Yeah, indeed. I think you're right. I don't think you're wrong there, matey. I'll just try and get my super chat animation. Let's get my super. Yeah, there it is. Oh, it's a bit small. There you go. That's better. And then I'll move it over a little bit. So it's kind of. I'll move it there. Let's do that again because I got a super chat earlier. There you go. There you go. You can tell I'm using a different computer today. So anyway, let's talk about the Tory SLEAZE yesterday, because this was off the charts. This was just, I mean, even in terms of the Tories being a bit sleazy, this is still like it's still several shades of craziness. So first of all, you had the news that came out at 9:30 the night before, but it was really reported on yesterday. So I'm saying it was all in one day. It was all in 24 hours, let's say. We had Mark Menzies, who's a Tory MP. And these weird stories coming out about him, about being locked in someone's flat at 3 a.m. and having to pay them lots of money because he'd been sick on the carpet and it was an expensive carpet and they wanted $5,000. Can you give me the $5,000? Basically extorting, blackmailing his own staff into paying out these debts that he had accrued somehow through being irresponsible. I don't know. So he's lost the Tory whip. And the interesting thing about that is he lost the whip straight away. There was no monkeying around there. He lost it straight away. There was no we'll wait till the outcome of the investigation. And the Tories knew about it. Phil talked about this yesterday. The Tories knew about it for months. It was only because it came out in the newspapers that, it was even mentioned. And they brought it out at an exact time that they knew, I guess, that other scandals were going to come out and that things are really heating up in the Middle East. And therefore, you go on the BBC website right now and its front page is absolutely dominated by tensions between Iran and Israel. It's not dominated by the fact that this Mark Menzies creep was being a complete complete weirdo, a total weirdo, and extorting money and stealing money. He stole money from Conservative funds. I mean, that's bad enough. I mean, but that at least it's Tory party funds. It's not our money. That's the usual trick of the Tories, is stealing our money. Which, you know, is it Michelle Donlan? Turned out it wasn't 16 grand that she cost the taxpayer. It was 32, was it? 32 grand? And let's not forget, let's just not forget, Priti Patel, when she had to pay over £150,000 to a civil servant that she bullied out of their place of work. We picked up the tab for that. Priti Patel didn't, the smug little person. She didn't. She was just sitting there going, smug. Look at me, smug. Look at my smug little smile. I don't have to pay. I don't have to pay for the crimes, the problems. I don't have to pay for the consequences of what I do. It's very typical of the Tory set. They don't have to pay for the consequences. They don't care. Boris Johnson doesn't have to pay for the consequences. One rule for the rich, one rule for the rest of us. 34k it is, according to Cathal. So at least he was only stealing off the Tories, which, is that really a crime? Yes, it is still a crime. I know it probably shouldn't be, but it is. It's still a crime. If you or I did that, if we went in to the Tories local HQ, the Conservative club, and we stole $6.5 grand out the till, I think we would feel the long arm of the law on our shoulder before very long. I just think that would happen. I think that's something that would definitely happen. Anyway, that wasn't the only scandal. So we also had this guy, Jonathan Nunn, I think his name is, a Conservative councillor who has resigned over abuse claims. 5 women have come forward to say that they were abused in some way by this Tory councillor. But then it's also come out that this guy beat his wife so badly back in 2002 that she was left with bruises all over her body. The man is a monster. Like, he shouldn't be a councillor. He shouldn't even be walking the streets. He should be in jail for what he's done. And yet the Tories, yeah, we'll have him. We talk a lot about the reforms vetting procedures not being very good, but the Tories are just... Yeah. And then there was a third scandal, could you believe it? There's a guy called Akhil Tripathi, and he is a huge donor to the Tory party. So much so that he's the guy who, puts Rishi Sunak in his private jet and flies him around and everything. And he's now facing a court case. And he's had a £14 million asset freeze as a consequence of this court case. £14 million. I mean, just... These people don't live in the real world, do they? So we've had a Tory MP, Tory councillor, Tory donor, all in one day, all committing crimes. Just, this is the modern Tory party. Now, I'll tell you a story, because I need a bit of cheering up. I was a bit stressed this morning, I've got to admit. It took me over half an hour to get online, even though I got everything set up, my lights set up, my mic, my computer, my camera. I tested it all, I made sure that it was working, and then no internet. So I've literally, we're in a little cottage, and I had to go to a cottage. I had to sort of break in a few doors down and steal their internet box, which runs off the EE network, and bring it here. So we could do this. You can imagine how stressful that is, because I was like, no, we have managed to get out an episode in some form of Morning Brew every morning for over a year now, every weekday morning for over a year now, between me and Phil. And I am not letting you down today. So yeah, I'm here. I'm gonna be just doing a half-hour show today, and I know I started a little bit late. So if you want to hang out with me, that's great. If you want to go off and listen to James O'Brien, that's absolutely fine with me. But you know, I don't want to let you down. You know, one of the things that people ask me, like when I was traveling, when things got hard on my journey to every country in the world, I said what kept me going was that I didn't want to let people down. Like all the people who had helped me by the end of the sort of first year, or even more so in the second year, so many people, because I was couch surfing, so I was staying with local people all over the world. Wherever I was staying with locals. I was traveling with local people, and so many people helped me out. Shipping companies helped me out. Train companies helped me out. Like just people helped. And I had said to them, I'm going to go to every country in the world without flying. And I felt at this point that if I didn't do it, I'll be letting them down more than I'll even be letting myself down. And that kept me going. So that's why I'm here this morning for you. But yeah, Tory SLEAZE is just absolutely off the charts. And don't think it's going to get any better anytime soon, because it's really, really not. Don't say refuck. Don't say reform. Use their full name, Reform Party UK Limited. They're a private company, not like other political parties. We're going to call them Refuck Limited. Reform UK. Refuck Limited. Yeah, that's what I'm going to call them from now on. Been watching you since 2 Men in a Pub days. Oh, thanks, Leanne. It was 3 men, but yeah. Sometimes it was 2. Sometimes it was 4. Sometimes it wasn't even men. But yeah, this is a terrible title for a podcast when it's not always going to be 3 men. It wasn't always in a pub. Wasn't always 3 people. Wasn't always 3 men. Wasn't always in a pub. But yes, the great days. Annette Alexander, morning, sir. Geesh, another Tory scandal, but the Tory press is all about Angela. Yeah. I'd like to say it's unbelievable, but it's really not. Breaking news, Johnson breached rules by not disclosing links with hedge fund. That's from Patrick McCarthy. Well then, yes, Boris Johnson breaking the rules again, doesn't really surprise anyone. I'm just trying to look this up, so we can talk about it. A variable number of people in a location isn't as catchy. Yeah. Very good point. It's weird. After Pincher, this is from Nathaniel. I thought the Tories might have an issue with closeted gay people. I think they've got an issue with just people. The people that they attract in general have an important part of their soul missing. And so whether they're gay or straight, whether they're, from different ethnic origins, different backgrounds, it doesn't matter. That's what keeps all the Tories together. It's the same thing that keeps Tom and Daisy in The Great Gatsby together. It's a vast carelessness. That whole, I don't care about anyone, anything except myself, my own career, feathering my own nest. That's all I care about. And that's a very Tory attitude, and it's one that is toxic. And that's why we talk about the Tories. They are a toxic party. They're a toxic mind virus, because they get into people's heads and they're like, oh, well, maybe people who are going to food bags should take responsibility for the fact that they are literally working every hour God sends in 3 different jobs, but yet it still doesn't pay enough because of the state of the economy that hasn't grown in 14 years. In fact, it's shrank in real terms, because although our economy has stayed the same, it stayed stagnant at around $3 trillion a year. In real terms, the dollar to the pound ratio has changed, so the dollar is worth more than the pound's worth less. But also, so measuring GDP by pounds isn't the best way to do it. But when you measure it by dollars, you go, okay, well, it was $3 trillion in 2007. That was 17 years ago. And now it's still the same price today. It's still the same value. And I know that GDP is not the best way to measure anything. I know that. Got to go round. And as a rough back of the envelope sort of way of looking at stuff, it's okay. It's not the best. It's okay. But if you look at that and go, okay, well, the economy hasn't grown, but it hasn't shrunk either. So that's good, isn't it? No. Because it has shrunk, because our population has gone from 60 million in 2007 to 68 million. And it'll top 70 million in a couple of years' time, because we are having to take people in from all over the world to plug the gaps that have been left by us leaving the European Union. I've got some super chats here to thank and to point out. So we've got Captain Bart Roberts. Thank you very much. I have a new name for X Twitter. Well, I like the fact that X is pronounced differently in different languages, and I believe in Mexican Spanish it's pronounced as a ch. It's a sh sound. Sorry, sh, sh. So if you spell Twitter with an X at the beginning, work it out. Johnny Cophead, thank you very much for the super chat. Johnny, you're so generous. Thank you. It's all very well you picking on Tory sleaze monsters, but what about Angela Rayner? Well, exactly, mate. Exactly. Couldn't say it better myself. Poor old Angela. She did a thing like 20 years ago, and she should be raked over the coals for that. Meanwhile, the Tories are literally calling elderly ladies up in the middle of the night, demanding money off them to get them out of a, drug deal gone wrong, or I don't know what happened. Ivan, thank you very much for the super chat. David T.C. Davies is an absolute monster. Did anyone see him on BBC Question Time last night? The way he spoke to Labour's Bridget Phillipson and the audience was reprehensible. Well, I didn't see it, but yeah. That makes sense to me, because he's an awful person, and the Tories attract these people who are the worst, the literal worst. I'm trying to type in Boris Johnson into my phone so I can look up this latest bit of news, but unfortunately, every time I type in Boris Johnson, it comes up with Boris Johnson wallpaper designer. So I'll have to delete all that. Here we go. Financial Times. Boris Johnson breached rules by not disclosing links with hedge funds. There you go. That's on the front cover there of the Financial Times. Oh, focus. Diplodocus. Right. Also, the Tories claim to want to stop the boat. This is from Michael. But a court selling asylum acceptance for £2,000. Yeah. It's just... We'll give you £2,000 if you go to Rwanda. I'll go for £2,000 to Rwanda. It's a lovely place. I'll go and hang out there for a bit, see if I can see the gorillas, and then come back. Whitehall watchdog accuses former UK Prime Minister of being evasive around tie to Merlin advisors over his very strange Venezuela visit. Venezuela uses a whipping dog for a lot of these right-wingers who go, oh, you want a socialist state? Oh, do you? Well, I don't want to end up like Venezuela. Let's be very clear here. Venezuela is not a socialist state. Venezuela is a dictatorship run by, first of all, Hugo Chavez until he died, and then it was taken over by his right-hand man. What's his name? Medeiros, is it? The guy's in charge? It's gone, but it'll come back to me. But these are strongmen dictators who clamp down on opposition like nobody's business, and they have impoverished the entire country by pissing off all their neighbours. Because you think, good old Venezuela standing up against the imperialist might of America, plucky little, yeah, but the thing is, it doesn't really affect America. America doesn't give a shit about Venezuela. I tell you who does give a shit: Colombia, Panama, Ecuador, Peru, where these what's the word for it? Where these issues that have been created by the government, by Maduro and his mates, are basically spilling out over into other countries and causing problems in the countries around Venezuela. And don't forget, one of the first things they did when they got into power was they pulled out of all of their EU-like trade agreements with their neighbours. They say, oh, we don't want to trade with our neighbours anymore. We're going to trade with poor people on the other side of the world. Yeah. And I'll tell you who Venezuela is a huge problem for at the moment, a massive headache for: Guyana. They had a referendum. Get this. Venezuela has this kind of claim over 2/3 of the country next to it, Guyana, which used to be British Guyana. There's 3 Guyanas at the top of South America. There's British Guyana, which is now called Guyana. There was Dutch Guyana, which is now called Suriname, and there's French Guyana, which is now called French Guyana, and it's still technically part of France. That's why it appears on the back of euro banknotes. If you look very carefully, you can see a little corner of South America in there. So the neighbor to the east of Venezuela is Guyana. Now, relations between Venezuela and Guyana have never been good. I think Guyana drives on the left, actually. I need to check this, but I seem to remember them driving on the left. But they're part of CARICOM. They're a very Caribbean-facing place, just like Belize. They play cricket. They're part of the Commonwealth. They speak English. And the idea that the Venezuelans who speak Spanish are going to take over 2/3 of their land is horrible. Like, it's a horrible thing for a country to say. But even worse, they had a referendum on it. So they asked the people, should we invade our neighbour and murder them all? And people were like, yeah, that sounds great. And I have a problem with referendums at the best of times because, obviously, Brexit fraudulendum. But you always find that the side that spend the most on advertising wins, invariably, in a referendum, because most people on one political issue don't give a stuff. They don't care until they're told to care by the person selling them the thing that they need to care about. In the same way that, like, people drink Red Bull, even though it's disgusting. What is that? It's advertising. People drink Coca-Cola, even though I don't think it's as disgusting as Red Bull, but oh my God, the sugar in that. 40% of your sugar intake for the day in one can of Coke. Wow. People smoke cigarettes. I'm not going to go on about cigarettes again because I lost enough viewers last time. But something that has been told by an advertising agency, do this, it's good for you. And you know what? It's no surprise, just a little aside on this, it's no surprise that the Tories are well in with the likes of Charles Saatchi and all that lot, the advertising people who come up with clever ways to manipulate people's psychology to make them do what they want to do. It's no surprise that they're well in with all that lot. Anyway, so yeah, Venezuela's not a country that I feel like we should be chummying up to in any way, shape or form. But what's interesting is at the same time, the people on the right were saying the same thing, but for different reasons. Because they were saying, oh, but it's a socialist utopia and everything's awful. And people are going on the Maduro diet and they're losing all their weight. They're losing loads of weight because there's no food, and the kids aren't getting enough nutrition, just like in the UK. But yeah, I no idea why Boris Johnson went over there. But at the time that it happened, a few weeks ago now, it looked a bit dodgy. It looked a bit dicey. It looked a bit like something else going on here. And it turns out, by the looks of things, that Boris Johnson has breached UK government rules by failing to disclose his relationship with a hedge fund that organised his visit to meet Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro in February, according to the Business Appointments Watchdog. Well then, Boris Johnson breaking the rules. That almost never happens. I'm going to jump into your chat. Thank you very much for hanging around, everyone. Like, everyone who's hung around, because it's now like way past 10:30. Gary Arnold, thank you very much for the super chat. I really, really appreciate that. Thank you, mate. I could do with all the super chats I can get this morning, considering everything that's happened. Yes, and George, thank you very much for the £2 super chat. Really appreciate that as well. Yeah, I think I'm going to try and go to a cafe at 1:00 to do the agenda with Phil. So if you know anywhere near Cartmel that's got good internet, please let me know. I'm particularly worried now about the lack of internet because we're going to be here on Sunday and it's the Glastonbury resale. It's my last chance to go to Glastonbury this year and I really need good internet and I'm not going to have it. And I don't think any cafes are going to be open at 9:00 on a Sunday. Bit rubbish. Same in China. X equals SH says Vendetta in the chat. I thought it was Ch in China, and like China, you could spell it with an X, X-I-N-A, and that would be pronounced China after the first Emperor Qi, who was Xi, I think. Is that right? Am I just making that up? Or Qin? It was Qin, wasn't it? The first emperor of China, the one who had the terracotta army built, was it Qin? It was X-I-N, and it's pronounced Qin. Someone who speaks better Mandarin than me, please get in the chat and tell me how to say it, because I hate the idea that I've been saying it wrong all these years. Xinjiang is the province in the very northwest of China, and that's where, is it the Rohingya Muslims come from? I might be getting that wrong, sorry if I am, who have been terribly discriminated against and put into camps by the Chinese. I always thought it'd be nice if Xinjiang was got independence, because then we'd have a country that begins with the letter X. I'm sure there's better reasons, but that was mine. Oh my word, Plum Duff, thank you so much. Oh my god, thank you. Plum Duff's just dropped £50 super chat. Thank you, Plum Duff. Plum Duff says, thanks for all you do, Graham. Thank you. Oh wow, I've calmed down now. I've had my cup of tea and my heart's not going at 1,000,000 miles an hour because of the problems this morning. Thank you so much. Honestly, like, everyone hanging around and then giving generous super chats and things, it does make this job worth it. And I've said this before, like, I really enjoy this job. I really enjoy talking to all you lot and having these live shows and talking to all the content creators about politics and getting it all off our chests and talking things through. And you know what? We're not infallible. We muck up, we make mistakes, and we sometimes say the wrong things. And we might not agree on everything. Of course, we're not going to. But I really, really like the community that we've built together over the last year and several years if you've been following my channel. I think it's really great, and we're sort of we're there looking out for each other, which is fantastic. So thank you so much, Plum Duff. I really appreciate it. Emma, thank you as well for the super chat. I live not far from Cartmel. In about an hour, you can use my internet. Oh, thanks, Emma. I just knock on Emma's door. All right, Emma. Thanks, everyone, for the super chat and the offer of internet. I'll be round. I'll be getting there at 5 to 9 on Sunday to buy Glastonbury tickets. Try and get tickets to Glastonbury. Okay. In One Angry Pagan says Q makes the ch sound, X makes a sh sound. That's very interesting. Okay, so it's China. So it's Shin. The first emperor is Shin. Am I right? Am I going mad? I don't know. Thank you so much to Plum Duff. Lee Cord in the chat here saying, Plum Duff, you effing legend. Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Sarah says, awesome, Plum. Jez says, well done, Plum Duff. And Johnny Copperhead, now the bad people might let Graham out. Thank you. Let me help, I'm in a cottage in the Lake District. Anthony Fisher, thank you very much for the £2 super chat. It's actually my friend's cottage who lives here, and unfortunately she's out this morning, so she couldn't help us with our internet trouble. So I was like calling him up going, what do we do? And the internet was really bad, so the phone signal was, so I was like going down the road to try and get better phone signal to go, what do we do about the internet? Thanks very much to Anthony Fisher there for the super chat. Watching this while decorating, hope you're okay, Graham. Oh, thank you very much, Anthony. And Johnny Copperhead, £10 super chat. Thank you. Money to get you to Emma's. Oh, thank you. What a great team! What a great team! Thank you so much. But yeah, I'm gonna sign off soon because it's been half an hour, and I'm sure you have better things to do this morning than to listen to me ramble on. After coming on 40 minutes late, terrible timing. But no, I didn't oversleep. I'll let you know now. I didn't oversleep. I wish I had. That would be a better thing to have done. Pretty sure that's the Qin dynasty, not the Shin dynasty, says One Angry Pagan. Oh, wow. If only we had nationalised internet, says BUFU, Mike. Yeah. Well, do you know what? Funnily enough, that's something that we could have had in 1990. You did believe me, but I've looked this up. Like, Maggie Thatcher was still in charge in 1990, and the suggestion was put to them at the time that we could put in a nationwide network of fibre optic cabling, or, the cutting edge technology of the time. We could put it all in as a nationwide thing, and BT would do it. And she went, no, because we need to have competition, and that's not competition. In South Korea, they did do this. They put in a network, and everyone's got super fast internet in South Korea. Here in the UK, I mean, especially in rural areas like this, it's, yeah, good luck, mate. Viv, thank you so much for the £10 super chat. Really appreciate that. That's really kind. Thank you. But yeah, in terms of infrastructure, yeah, I'd like to see that. I'd like to see a system where we all have very, very good internet. It might be able to be delivered via the mobile phone network when we get to 6G for households and things like that, but we're not quite there yet. And obviously the weirdos who went on about 5G being the worst thing ever. You know, it's not 5 gigahertz, it's just the 5th generation of signal bandwidth that they could use. But if we get up to 6G, then things could improve massively for people all over the country. Better things to do. Looks at the work I could be getting on with. Not really. It's fine. Totally fine, says Boninator. Yeah, I've let Boninator get back to work. Didn't Thatcher sell off cable and wireless about that time? Yeah, I think she did. But it was like the only competition to BT, I think, at the time was like Mercury. Do you remember Mercury, the phone company? Mercury? You know the Mercury Music Prize? That was named after the company, Mercury, because they were the first sponsors of it, and it just continued to be called the Mercury Music Prize. People think that it's named after Freddie Mercury. It's not. It's named after the company Mercury, which was a what's it called? A rival to BT. But you can only really have one phone network. It's not like you can have cables from one company and another company going to the same place. Patrick's, thank you very much for the super chats. How about the EU proposed youth mobility scheme? Yes, I'll try and talk about this at 1 o'clock with Phil. It's a brilliant idea. It is something that Labour should definitely embrace, but they won't because they don't want to talk about Brexit. We don't talk, it's like Bruno. We don't talk about Brexit. And that's the rule that they've got until the election. After the election, I can see this definitely becoming a thing, and good, because it's another step in the direction of our reunion with the European Union. At the moment, we are stuck behind the gammon curtain that has been built by faceless bureaucrats and moneyed people in this country. And we need to tear that wall down and reunite with the rest of the EU. Reunification for the nation. Maybe we should start calling it that instead of rejoin. Reunite. Sounds nicer. Right, Brexit bollocks, says Plumduff. And on that last note, which I completely agree with, I'll see you at 1 o'clock, I hope. Internet permitting. I hope we don't have any more cock-ups like this morning. Thank you very much for joining me. Thanks very much for all of the amazing, chat and the tolerance of things going wrong. Thanks for the super chats. Really appreciate it. And especially Johnny and Plum, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You make this all worthwhile. And yeah, I'll be back at 1 o'clock. So until then, I'll say thanks for watching. Hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.